make sure. Look, it changed the fucking stream name. Look at that. Man, Twitch, you fucking with me. You're fucking with me, Twitch. Hey, guess what? This is the first episode of our new podcast here with Team TrSH. It's like our old podcast, except nobody that did the old one is like here today. So it's just me, and it's not just my show. There's other people in here. Hey, why don't you guys introduce yourselves that are here with me today?
Hello, I'm the one and only Shrek participator in the Trash Talk Temple.
He said,
Hello, I am
hold on.
Jiro.
Hold on. He said Shrek. Nobody the fuck knows you for that name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me add the little quotations in between. The one and only Toad Savage.
Nice. Other guy.
Hi, I am Jiro. Pretty much it.
He's J-Ro. That's pretty much it. Little bit of background about yourselves. First, Toad Savage, or sorry, the Shrek. Hey, how did you, get started in fucking everything, the world, video games, fighting games, whatever? Take this moment.
Gosh. So, video games, in my experience, I really started out playing like Doom and Spyro and Crash Bandicoot on the PS1, those basic platformers. But once the PS2 came out, my stepdad, he whipped out this glorious game. It was called Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance.
Ooh.
And me, as a young child, disturbing stuff, right? But it was still cool. Everyone was fighting, and every punch, it was unrealistic blood spurts. It was a shock, which is what Mortal Kombat was for.
Nice. What about you, Mr. J-Ro? How did you get started in MK and all of that?
I used to play shooters like, Doom. I would play like open world, and then in 2015 I saw MKX come out, and then that's how I started playing everything. I started playing the old ones, and then I just got to the new one.
Nice.
Pretty much it.
Nice. What, so you guys have been competing on my show, right? Like, have you guys, how did you get started, like, competing? What even got you into competition and whatnot?
Gosh, if I may answer, it's a really complicated. It's not a complicated fighting game, but I always found it really tactical, something really, you have to try in. Like, you have to really try to get the computer to open up if you didn't have anyone to play. But I just found it a real mind game. And so for that reason, it made it real addicting. So I really wanted to think about it and get into it.
He all brainy and shit, being all smart, and the rest of us are just fucking jumping like idiots and doing uppercuts. I respect that. What about you, J-Ro? Why the hell are you being competitive? You're like the sweatiest person in this building right now.
It started off like, with very small, not even tournaments, it was just exhibitions. So I started with exhibitions, and then, it's staying at exhibitions right now. They're getting a little bit bigger as we go. But I was convinced by my friends to do the small ones, and then, y'all just convinced me to play after.
Oh, what? So, have you been doing a lot of other events, competing in other tournaments and what have you?
Nah, I haven't been in other ones.
Why not?
I don't know, they just seem boring.
Other streams seem boring. I can respect that. I'll rock with that.
Yeah, they do.
What about you, Sode? Have you tried to get into any other events?
Actually, I tried to participate in online Evo in Mortal Kombat X because I feel like that's where I really started analyzing the game and getting, competitive, in quotes. But I tried Evo out 2019 in Mortal Kombat 11. And this is when the game was like, fresh. Like, Evo was only 2 months out.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of people were into that game. I thought I was into that game like that. I made it only like 3 rounds until I fought like 3 Liu Kangs and a Cassie Cage.
Damn.
Or so, when those characters were busted.
Oh,
But
man.
otherwise, it was fun.
So like you finally saw like exactly how tier hoary people will get in tournament. Like you sit there and you're like, hey man, I'm gonna be honorable. I'm not gonna pick that shit. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fight with the mid tier, and then you go to a tournament, and you're like, oh fuck, dude, I have to fight an entire bracket of Cetrions.
Boom on the dot, because I was playing Raiden at the time. I was a Raiden loyalist because, Mortal Kombat X, I was kind of ignorant to. I was all like, oh, mid tier, whatever. Like, but then I really got the taste of the tournament when, like you said, the top tiers, everyone's playing the top tier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just shows how hard you have to work. When people are like, "Oh yeah, it's just a hard matchup, but it's not unwinnable, but it's just hard." And it's like, dude, when I'm looking at a bracket and I see nothing but 6-4s and 7-3s, it's like, fuck, dude, I make one mistake and I'm going home, and everybody else is gonna have a free ride on my ass.
That's it. They're touching you. They're getting 30% damage because, I mean, like I said, this was 2 months after Mortal Kombat came out. So these characters, like a lot of them have, if we consider like grabs, were still 140 at that time. Liu Kang and Cassie were hitting close to 400 with one bar in the corner and everything like that. Yeah, no, it was a different stage than what I ever thought to practice. Like Evo tournaments in general, they get tough. They get tough, especially at the beginning of a game, which makes me surprised they hold tournaments so close to when the game comes out.
And that's actually one of the best things. That's when the game is the most exciting because we haven't found all the broken stuff. Because like right now people are discovering like, holy shit, Buzzsaw Kung Lao is like dumb, like Air Dash Cabal is like dumb. Like these characters are reshaping the meta right now, right in before our eyes. And like we thought this was a solved game. We were like, oh, there's no depth, oh, there's no this, there's no that. And now we're finding stuff that we didn't even think, and we're like, holy shit, this stuff is way more broken. If they would have patched this game and like nerfed Jackie or whatever that people were talking about they should have done and left it as is, then like the shit that's discovered as broken right now, like the stuff that we're finding, like holy shit, we didn't know. And it's like, yo, dude, that would have been left untouched and we wouldn't have had upgraded Jackie to fight this shit. Because like upgraded Jackie is kind of like not really touching the meta now. Like it's all about like, yo, Air Dash Cabal is stupid.
Oh, it gets there. I mean, you were talking about not too long ago, though, that people are talking about new things like how to flawless block. I mean, the game has gained more taste. I mean, J-Ro over here is like flawless blocking whiffs, on hit, on block. He's really good at that stuff.
Yeah, he's all right. You all right, J-Ro?
He's all right. I don't believe he's 12.
No one believes he's 12. Nobody believes that he's 12. Apparently, not even the other 12-year-olds that wanted to do matches with him believe that he's 12. J-Ro, how come you're not competing more, you dumbass?
Competing more? It just doesn't catch my attention anywhere else.
Have you tried to hit up any offline scenes?
There's only one, and that's like, I don't know, that's kind of far from me. And that's, I think, Dallas.
Oh yeah, that is probably very, very far. Even still, you should get out there. You should get out there and try and like, compete. You would have a good time, and I keep telling people that. I keep telling people they'll have a good time, but you'll know once you get into that bracket and you see it's filled with top tiers, you'll start to understand. This is why I tell people you need to play these people that play top tiers. Like, if you're playing someone like Sizoth or Fernando, and it's like, no, dude, I want that fucking Jackie. Like, no, I want that fucking Cetrion. Like, go get that dumb shit. Go get that dumb shit. Because I'm from the old school of like, yo, dude, I want to be the guy that beats that shit. I don't want to be the guy like everybody else that loses. I want the glory. I want, when I beat your ass, I want you to know your ass was beat by me, and I want everybody to remember it. Maybe that's not a mentality people have anymore. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I don't put much thought into that, but I guess so, yeah.
Toad?
One more time? What was the question? Sorry.
Fuck, man, I smoke weed when I do this, man. This is supposed to be flow of consciousness. The consciousness has flown. The consciousness has flown. Next question. Moving along. What was the next question? J-Ro, you're too young for that sort of stuff. You remember what we were talking about, correct?
No, not that. I got distracted, so no.
Awesome. Awesome. Anyways, next discussion. We're going to talk about how the tier list has changed, or not necessarily the tier list, but the meta, and how the game still has a lot of life left in it and a lot of fucking shit to explore. And do you guys agree or disagree that there's still a lot left to discover in this game? That the meta now may not be the meta in a year?
There definitely
There's way
is.
more.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Like I think the meta, I thought that was a great question because the meta, everyone's seeing Cabal. However, I feel like we've been stuck in a Cabal meta for like a while, but I'm starting to see it's going more towards Shang Tsung, even though he's been a good character all this time. All these people that are finding these slept on characters, they find little abilities with them. And that's how I feel like we're discovering more because the meta is shifting, personally.
Absolutely. And I've said it before, I've been saying this pretty much all of this year and most of last year, that I said this game doesn't need too much as far as a patch. And even then, I was kind of hesitant to really mess with anything as far as the balance and whatnot goes. But I've always said that this game it's like on the cusp of being balanced. And that was mostly stemming from the fact that, dude, we haven't explored half of this shit, and I bet you there's some broken shit in this game. We're finding it with Cabal now. We're finding it with Shang Tsung. We're finding it with Kung Lao. People are realizing, hey, wait a minute. Dude, RoboCop can actually keep you out. High-level people are being outzoned by RoboCops. The zoning is oppressive and people are struggling with it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, this game is not even close to solved. There's so much more. There's so much more. And quite frankly, I think that RoboCop meta, man, is going to grow a lot more.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I rage quit every single time I, play a RoboCop on Combat League. So for sure.
Yeah, we've seen, not as prominently as others, but we've seen a lot of RoboCop within our inner circles. I even find myself choosing him sometimes. Combat League and casuals, I find a lot of RoboCops too. That might be something that because at the beginning it was very oppressive, and I feel like Jukes has really demonstrated how oppressive RoboCop can be.
Yeah, you're just not
well.
getting in. I think the reason why is that people are just now actually getting the grasp of how to zone. People thought, because again, this goes back to the MK community being generally quite ass at fighting games. They equated zoning to projectile spam. And when you go in this game and you can't really spam, you can, if someone's really bad, you can get away with just spamming shit. But against a generally decent player, you're not going to spam for too long. You'll maybe get 2 or 3 repetitions, and then they're going to get out of it. So people thought that there was no zoning because there was really no spamming. The fights are a lot more dynamic in MK11 than they've ever been in pretty much any fighting game I've ever played. So now that people understand how to zone, people are like, holy shit, RoboCop is cheap. Now that I know how to control space, now I know where to put projectiles to keep someone out, that I know how to mix up my command list to get them slipping and keep them out all match, RoboCop has every tool needed to never, ever have your opponent get close to him.
No, unless you're using, bare RoboCop. What's up, J-Ro?
I was just going to say, yeah. Yeah, because, he has the traps, the guns, and then the rocket, which pushes you back a lot. And you can just set up the trap after that, right?
Yeah, and the rocket pushes you back a mile on fucking block. It's like, damn, I fucking blocked it, and now I'm half screen away still. You have to avoid it.
Yeah, that's only on block, too. And on hit, I'm pretty sure you go full screen, right?
Yeah, on hit, you're knocked the whole screen.
Damn.
Worse than Sonya's burned onion ring, you know what I'm saying? The second hit, it really feels terrible to get knocked back by that. Or Cetrion's rock, her boulder. It doesn't feel good to be set back that far if you don't get the flawless block.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it
even
doesn't at
even
all.
those characters are not nearly as oppressive full screen as RoboCop. And I've remember when they first announced third variations and they first like started buffing RoboCop, and I was playing him and I was just wrecking people in like Combat League. I mean, I've got videos on YouTube of me just saying, "Hey man, let's do this RoboCop," and like the RoboCop full screen trap and the RoboCop build, and people are actually starting to like use that tech that I discovered many moons ago and just destroying people. And when they buffed mid grab, his command grab to tick off of 1-2-1, it was like it became even worse.
It was all ogre.
Like
It because you're talking about because oh gosh, it's been a while since because the third variation seemed to have a um, weird lifespan, especially when customs came out. They're a little bit of a blur. But you're talking about like Cleavel Trap from full screen, keeping them back full screen
Yeah.
with triple shots, and then your Cobra rifle, keeping them getting that tick damage.
Yeah, well, the build that I do is I do the trap, the spike floor, right? Because that makes it to where they can't dash; they have to jump or walk. And then I keep the armored rocket, right? The arm rocket, the one that everyone says is shitty, but it does a lot of damage, which is really big when you're a zoner, right? Because zoners don't do a lot of damage. So for a single hit, it's a lot of damage. And because the trap makes it to where you can't move without jumping, or like you just have to do regular ass walk or jump. And if you do regular ass walk, I hit you with the mid shot. And if you jump, I hit you with the rocket. Hey, thanks for the follow. It hit you with the rocket, and it knocks you back full screen, does a lot of damage, gives me enough time to put another trap out. So the whole thing is while you're sitting on this trap, eating tick damage and unable to dash, you're guessing a 50-50 between the mid shot and the rocket, whether I'm going to control this area of space or this area of space. And if you guess wrong, you're put back into the trap. And if you do nothing, you're eating chip. So, like, you have to guess. And it's just a 50-50 from full screen over and over and over that I loop. And if I want to get Unga and get really crazy, I could spend bar on the second trap, which if you amplify the trap, the spike trap, the second one, the amplified one, which you can get both out if you spend the bar, is a fucking grenade that puts out a area of effect, like a cloud, that does a dot as well. And the dot, if it ticks for a certain amount of damage, it stuns you. You can't really combo off of the stun, but it holds you in place and you're like stuck and you're like coughing. So like you're stuck on this trap. You're eating the dot from the trap. You're eating the dot from the amplified trap. Now you're stunned and taking chip damage. And I'm pelting you with mid shots, and if you try to jump, I rocket your ass right back in there, and it just loops over and over and over. And you guys, I've shown you guys that build, and I've even changed it up to add the mid grab. But like, dog, like you get timed out. Like there's nothing you can do. You can't move. You can't fight. You can't shoot back unless you also have a mid projectile, because otherwise I'm shooting your dick. Like, RoboCop zoning is fucked up with that build, and people did not realize it, and now... Like, you guys saw whenever I would play that build on stream, like, my viewership drops to shit. And if I post those videos of me playing my RoboCop on YouTube, my comment section lets me know that they are not happy to see this. Like, it is the most oppressive, most bullshit zoning in this game.
Borderline disgusting.
Yeah, it's not broken. Like, there's ways around it because I know how to play the build. I know how to get around it. It's not unbeatable, but oh my god, if you don't
all I
know.
did was just jump. I just jumped the whole game until I got to you.
But that's the thing is if you start jumping, I still have the upward shot and I still have the rocket, and I can amplify the rocket to delay it so that way it sits on screen longer.
Can, right?
Yeah, so if you try to jump too much and you try to chime your jumps, then I'll just delay the rocket.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know they slowed down on the Cleavel Trap. I'm not gonna lie, that's new to me. I didn't know you couldn't dash out of that.
Yeah,
I always jumped out of it.
Yeah, I always jumped out of it, like instinctively. Yeah, I always jumped out of it.
Well, and that's why I use the arm cannon, because the rifle, everybody uses the rifle because it's more hits, it pushes back on block, it's got mid hits in it, like it does have a lot more utility, but it's very bad to jumps. So when you go to the RoboCop build and you're trying to control space and zone someone out, you have to be thinking like, I want them to be on this spot of the screen. How do I keep them there? And for that build, for what I'm trying to do, which is make you get agitated from sitting on this trap all day is that build has to control vertical space. It has to control the skies, and that rifle shot does not control the skies. Like, yeah, I could kind of like change the timing because it's multiple hits to catch them out of the air, but that's got to be like preemptively done. You know, like I can't just sit there and react and say, oh, hey, no, you don't get to jump and anti-air you from full screen. You can't do that with that. And that's a key part of like zoning. A lot of people are not really keen to this idea. But some people are just more confident in their zoning and they're like, fuck it. I still have the upward shot. So if they do get in and they try to jump, I can still stop them at this range. But it's just because I have the arm cannon, I can stop them at many ranges, not just when they're close enough for me to do the close shot, the close upward shot.
You have a good point there, because I really wasn't picturing that when you said delay. I'm just like, yeah, that's really good for also for strings if you just if you've been kind of training them. I don't know if the rocket is actually safe on block
No.
up front,
No.
but you can delay it before if they're hesitant to attack. But that's unfortunate. It's not safe. But it was like you were saying with Cobra rocket rifle or whatever, it will push them back. But I see what you're saying with the high rocket, because the if you delay it and they're jumping in, is that what you're saying? It'll probably hit their shins or lower body or so.
Yeah, or it'll trip guard them.
Well, and that's crucial, because when I play RoboCop, I do find that people like to jump in on him when you like to insert that little cheeky mid shot, dick shot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a mid shot.
It is a mid. Even though it's called low shot, it's not a low. It's a mid.
Yeah, I really wonder why they didn't do a low shot for the low shot.
The thing about it that makes RoboCop even worse is that his movement is like some of the best movement in the game. And like once you start conditioning, yeah, he's really fast. His wave dash is godlike. His wave dash is fucking. He's got a big boy wave dash, so he dashes like Kotal Khan and Shao Kahn. He moves just like them. But what's really cool about his wave dash is once you can start conditioning them to jump at certain points and you start recognizing where they'll try to jump, you can just dash in, right? Dash in and uppercut them from like half screen. I mean, and I do it on stream all the time.
Serious?
You fucking dash in, uppercut them half screen, and then you can combo down one into mid grab and fucking anti-air them almost half screen and fucking combo them. Just because they're scared of.
That to me, right?
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that to you. I've gotten at least the down two. But like if you catch them early enough and like at the right point, you can even after you hit the down two, you can hit down one into the mid grab, get a fucking combo, and then amplify mid grab the fucking wall, carry
That's
their
like full
ass.
screen.
Yeah,
That's
take
full
them
screen.
full screen and then fucking start backdashing again, shooting them with low shots. Like it's so RoboCop is so fucking good. I don't know why it took everyone so long. I'm like, yo, does anybody do anything other than just pick the top tiers that Sonic Fox told them to pick? Like now that people are playing other characters, people are like, yo, dude, RoboCop is fucking stupid. I don't know how to beat this shit. It's like, yeah, the fuck you don't.
I feel like Rambo's coming to that light too, or will eventually come more popularly to that light, because I definitely don't disagree that he's lower than other characters for sure, but I feel like it's that hidden potential. I feel like Rambo's got that hidden potential.
I mean, in potential for zoning though.
Yeah,
he's surprisingly got more zoning tools than I would have expected him to have on release.
Honestly,
I don't know about you guys.
I think Rambo would be really cheap if people played him more like Kano. If people built him, so think about Kano, right? His win condition is I get you in the corner and then I just hit you with a bunch of stupid ass dots and you just fucking die to chip, not even able to move or do anything, right? You die while blocking. Right? But think about Rambo, like he kind of has that. Like he's got a bunch of traps and weird shit he could throw on the ground and a bunch of mix-ups. But like he's not really good at space control. He's not really good at the neutral. His rushdown is okay, but it's kind of gimmicky. But if you think of Rambo, I think if people started building Rambo to be more oppressive in the corner and kind of go all in the corner, because looking at Rambo's wall carry, it's like he doesn't get very good. It's not like Kano where he can hit a forward 4-3 and now you're like halfway to the corner off of like a one string. He doesn't have anything like that, but he's got like a lot better like mix-up potential than Kano. Like he's got a lot better mix-ups, and I think if you just kind of abuse his staggers and his mix-ups and like his kind of grab gaps where he can sneak grabs in. You don't even have to have a grab build, right? Get a build based on traps and like the little logs and shit, and then get them into the corner and then just have them eat chip on all that shit because they can't really backdash to get away. They can't jump. They have to walk forward into the trap that you set, and you're setting more traps, and you're just kind of peppering them in the corner and chipping them to death. And I think that if people tried to build Rambo in that way, instead of like, oh, he's a rushdown mix-up grappler or a combo machine, or, oh, he's just, they built him for controlling corner space and then played him in the sense of, I just need to get the corner. If I get the corner, I win. The way Kano's play. I think people would find that Rambo maybe has some juice. I think there's room to explore there.
And I think it would be really effective, on the zoning point that J-Ro was talking about. Maybe not rush down, but maybe we can get them, like if I was talking in the point of view of Rambo, maybe we can get them in the corner based on these traps, by these traps. And then maybe that might be the goal to the corner, because what you're talking about with the 113 string with Kano, getting them all the way over there. And Rambo has a lot of forward movement with his strings, like a lot.
Yeah, but he gets he gets knockdowns like splats in your face. So it's like you get the knockdown and you get like a mix on wake up. But like he doesn't, it's not like Kano where, like I said, you hit forward 4-3 and he like does the overhead kick and then kicks you again and you roll fucking half the screen away, and then he forward dashes one time while you're still on the ground, and now he's back basically pretty much at his best range. Like you're right inside of range 1/2. Like he's like another dash away from grabbing you. So it's like he hits forward 4-3, dashes forward, and now he's one more dash away from just fucking getting you in the corner. Like that's what I'm saying is like Rambo, if he doesn't have something like that, but like he has more mix. Like Kano can really, he's got to fish for that, right? He's got to kind of condition you to look for the sweep and all of that before you can attempt to throw that overhead out there, because it's so slow. You just get jabbed out of it. Rambo doesn't have like one slow overhead that gets him there. He just has like a bunch of tiny mix-ups that can get him there. And I think if people played a more patient Rambo and built around using those tiny mix-ups, and then when they got you in the corner, backed up and used all of his traps to control the space in front of you so you can't escape the corner. And then if you do, you get hit by a trap or some kind of goofy shit, put back into the corner. I think that it would be kind of like a reverse Kano, or like a low damage Kano. Like Kano does most of his damage at the corner, whereas Rambo would do most of his damage before the corner, and then when you hit the corner, it's game over.
And you could almost compare that, like you're saying, that's a reverse Kano. Yeah. What I'm thinking in my head is he's placing his little rolls, his overhead rolls, his back fours, because that's a really long back four, like a really long trip, because doesn't he extend his blades with his back four?
I think so. I know he like stretches his body the most that he can. Oh, by the way, J-Ro has exited the podcast. I guess he got in trouble with his mom.
Why? J-Ro, no.
Anyways, what were you saying?
Anyways, I was saying he has to place these little overheads and back fours to get you to that corner, where I think this is what I'm envisioning what you're saying. With Rambo, you have to place those little mixes. And I think that's kind of comparable to Kano. And I'm almost seeing it as Kano can almost place those one shots easier, because it is a one hit and that's a knockback.
Yeah, forward 4-3 is so like strong. I think that's like, it's come to the point now where Kano's, you're not even considered competitive with Kano unless you have the extended strings to get that forward 4-3, because like it basically gives you the corner in like 2 reads, and like any Kano in the corner is like, yo, you're dead. You're dead in the corner. And people kind of shortchanged that move because they're like, oh, it's seeable and blah 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 blah. But it's like, dude, it's seeable and reactable if they're spamming it. But if they do one, right? Because when I play Kano, I maybe do 1 or 2 of the forward 4-3s. But I only need to do it once. So I'll just sit there and back for you and hit you with lows, because I know if I'm patient, I can hit one of these, and now I'm one read away from getting you in the corner and I win.
That's all, and that really makes Kano deadly. And everything additional, I mean, to everything you just said, like some characters at their base power, like no variations, they can get you there. And I feel like Kano's one of those characters. I feel like things like assaulting you in the corner with acid or putting fire right below
Nah,
you,
but Kano,
that's a bully move. That's a
Kano's
bully move.
base is not good though. If you're trying to say Kano's good on a base, like all those moves that you mentioned were variation moves. They're not base. Acid is not base. That every Kano has it.
Oh no, not like acid. I meant like just his strings. If we're talking about the logic and his goal of placing those little hits of getting him to the corner with like back four and his overhead flip. So I'm just talking like if you were to add variations, I feel like that's just a teabag in itself, visually, with all those additional moves on Kano's variation list set.
A little
If
bit.
that makes sense.
I think people are slowly coming around to Kano, but I don't know because it's not like Kano's an unexplored character. People are exploring him in different matchups. You're seeing a lot of higher level players using like the magnet to counter Cetrion. So like people are finding more utility in the variation system, but Kano's a very popular character. He's been kind of explored as a base character. He doesn't have anything that like we don't really know he can do, but we're finding more applications for the things we know about. Like we knew about Magnet. We just didn't know it was really good against Cetrion. So I think that's where the evolution of Kano is going to be, is like, oh shit, what other like weird niche situations does he have a counter for, or what weird matchup does Kano cancel out with this weird move that like we've known about forever but we didn't think to use like that.
And that really caught me off guard when people started using it like that. It was just one day, no knowledge, step into a random match. Some Kano is using it at max range to pull me in.
And it's safe.
Such a surprise. And it's safe at max range. It's not
Sorta.
safe.
If they
range.
space it right, depending on the matchup, because it's like minus 15, I think. So it's like death on block. But if they space it right, you may not have something fast enough to hit him. So even though he sucks you in, but like depending on the matchup, like you may have to just hold that. Like I know that if they space it right against Kung Lao, depending on where they do it, I may or may not have to hold that.
Yeah, because Kung Lao, you're not reaching him, because at that range, max range, you're going to have to throw your hat out there. You're going to have to do the string where you throw your hat out there and hope he walks forward, essentially, to even think about any distance.
Yeah.
Or you have to jump.
But I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, like, you know, at any range, Jade is going to punish it with Nitro Kick. So, I mean, it's matchup dependent, you know, when I say that it's fucking safe. But it is safe depending on the character you're playing. There are certain characters, like, you know, maybe it might just be a Kung Lao thing, though. Maybe it's just a Kung Lao can't punish it.
I mean, how is Kung Lao's dash? Like, how is he on the ground? I know he's, you know, an aerial character, or at least is known to be, but how fast is he, like, moving? Like, on a wave dash?
Okay, so I did have this discussion with Splash, like, last week, and we kind of came to a agree to disagree thing, in that I think Kung Lao's movement is kind of bad, and he thinks Kung Lao's movement is godlike. And so I was like, all right, and, like, I get what he's saying, and I get why he thinks it's godlike, because he's found a way to make the character work for the way that he wants to, and I've found the way to make the character work for the way I want to. So, like, he's, like, a far more, like, unga bunga Kung Lao than me. Like, I'm a very defensive. Like, if there was a player that plays Kung Lao close to how I do, it would probably be Foxy. Like, Foxy is, like, probably the most similar to what I like to do with Lao. Whereas Splash is the exact opposite. He's just like, I want to unga bunga, I want a combo, I want a flashy, I want to blow you up. And so he thinks Kung Lao's movement is godlike because it's very fast, but it doesn't have a lot of space. Like, it doesn't move forward very far very fast, but he is moving very fast. So you can kind of jitter step, right? Really, really quickly, jitter step to throw your opponent off in the neutral. So it makes his movement very, very unpredictable because his dash animation is so quick, and it allows you to fake them out and get jumps and things like that, which is true if that's what you want to do. But like, when I'm moving, I'm not the kind of guy that likes to do that. I like to move with a purpose and be more like a brick wall. Like instead of I'm like bouncing around and you don't know where I'm going to be and what's going to happen next, I'm like, dude, you will not pass. And I will push you into that corner slowly and patiently and ever so fucking, ever so methodically. And so it's very different things. And that's why I think Kung Lao's ground movement is bad. But I think that Kung Lao's movement in general is actually very good because I have things like jump back dive kick. So I can still control that space and move like a brick wall using Kung Lao's movement to do that, because I can move forward and I can establish my range and say, I want to stand here and you will not pass, and then jump back, and if they try to pass where I said you will not pass, I will dive kick. And if they respect that I say you cannot pass, then I will move forward again. And like that's kind of how I play Kung Lao, and that's, like I said, that's kind of, if you watch Foxy, that's kind of how he plays Kung Lao as well, which is the exact opposite. And that's why I think we all disagree that his ground movement is bad, but we all agree that his air movement is godlike.
Oh yeah, again, as he's really known for, always been known for. Because I heard the term, because again, in Mortal Kombat X, I wasn't too into the competitive scene. I was just getting used to reading the frame data of that game, but I heard the term bird Lao, which where Kung Lao, it was Mortal Kombat 9 or Mortal Kombat
MK9.
X. He could literally stay in the air.
Yeah. MK9, where he just, because his dash or his dive kick had a horizontal angle, like he drops down a little bit and then flies forward. He like scoops. He doesn't dive straight like a fucking 90-degree angle. Like he like scoops down. And so you could sit there and then jump and then scoop and then air teleport and then scoop and then jump, and then like he would hardly ever be on the ground. And if he ever hit you in any direction, he could fucking combo, full combo, if he ever just glancing blow hit you with something random.
That person on the ground is playing monkey in the middle with one Kung Lao teleporting on both sides, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool and exciting to watch. But yeah, he did delete like most of the cast in that game until they nerfed the shit out of him. And the way they nerfed the shit out of him was they just basically made it to where everything he did was so fucking goddamn unsafe that if like he was ever wrong, like his health was just destroyed. And so that was kind of what like got him to be less dominant in competition. But like even to the end of MK9, dude, Kung Laos were still putting in work. Like there were still Kung Laos. Like I know Perfect Legend dropped him after a certain point and went to Cabal. Like a lot of people dropped Kung Lao and went to Cabal because Cabal was Cabal. But like there were still some Laos putting in work, and towards the end of that game's lifespan, I think if the community didn't move on so heavily to MKX, I think MK9, because people think Injustice came out and then MK9 died, and that's not the case. When Injustice 1 came out, a lot of the MK community just did not accept it. And so like there was an Evo where MK9 and Injustice were both represented, because the community was split enough to where like they knew that like they couldn't not have both games.
Yeah, and I mean those are two different titles. I mean, I know we've seen like elements, because when I remember watching the Injustice trailer and thinking, wow, it looks like MK9. It really does. It feels like it could be, but it seems like it was such an improvement, and not only an improvement, but maybe more of a different game, because you could use the interactables and back. I mean, when people got their hands on it, they're like, oh, you press back to block. Okay, that's very Street Fighter-esque, classic fighter-esque, where it's not a trigger or, an actual block button in the middle. And I feel like that could even take people who did move on to Injustice just to go back to Mortal Kombat as a fighting game and not just a fan. So I think besides the fans being split between Injustice superheroes or Mortal Kombat, I think besides that, I think they were split because they were two different fighting games. I mean, Injustice wasn't the next Mortal Kombat per se. It was just a different fighting game made by the same person.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people kind of have this like narrative in their mind that like the NRS cycle is like the game comes out and then everybody ignores the last game. And that really didn't start until Injustice 1. And I think it was because Injustice 1 was so fucking polarizing. Because for the most part when Injustice 1 came out, people didn't really take to it as like a lot of the MK community just did not take to it. And so MK9 still had a long tail. And it was around when MKX came out, and that was when the MK9 scene basically was just dead. And it's kind of sad because at that point it was like hard to play MK9 because it was a last gen game and there was no next gen port or next gen version. And then like a lot of people kind of like moved on to next gen and then went all in on MKX. And then when they realize, like, hey, MKX is nothing like MK9, they try to go back to MK9. But it's, like, fucking next to impossible to play MK9 now. And so it's, like, impossible to grow the MK9 scene. So, like, that's where I think the death of MK9's community was really at the release of MKX. Because that game had a long, long lifespan of competition and people playing it.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to get that whole NetherRealm cycle because people think a lot of the negativity in the NetherRealm community has nothing to do with the NetherRealm community. It comes from outside. Most of the people talking about the NetherRealm cycle are not in the NetherRealm community. They're like, oh, another game comes out and then everybody abandons it to go play the new game. And it's like, yeah, the majority do. Like, they really, really do. But, like, to me, a game is dead when no one's playing it. When I go online and, like, I cannot get a match. Like, even if I, like, to me, like, I don't consider Discord fighters to be dead. They're Discord fighters. They're on life support. But, like, they're not dead. And people act like, oh, yeah, MK in the NetherRealm community, they all abandon their games whenever there's a new game. And it's like, no, dude, like, most people stick with the game that they like. It's just they play the new shit like everybody else. If a new game comes out, I'm going to play it. But, like, look at, like, the Melty Blood community, right? Melty Blood didn't get a game for, like, a decade and a half or some shit. So, yeah, they played Blaze Blue. They played Persona Arena. They played Street Fighter. They played other games. And then when the next Melty comes out, they're going to play the new Melty. But they still had side tournaments for the old game. You could go to any major and there'd be a side tournament for Melty Blood. That's why people meme on it. And they're like, oh, Melty Blood's the fucking bathroom game, right? They have their side tournaments in the bathroom. And it's like, yeah, because there are people that are dedicated enough to that game to fucking host a tournament wherever they can. That's pretty impressive. Like, we meme on it, but I find that dope. And so the NetherRealm cycle, that's for people outside the NetherRealm community, because there were people still playing MK9 when Injustice came out. There are still people playing MKX. Even when Injustice 2 came out, people still played MKX when MK11 came out. People would still play MK9. If there was a way to play MK9 online with, like, decent netcode, you fucking don't think Tom Brady wouldn't be holding his own fucking MK9 tournaments online? You don't think Rio wouldn't be fucking, like, blowing up his channel with all of his MK9 technology that he's got on his channel that people are now going to be able to buy the game and play it? So, yeah, there's no NetherRealm cycle, in my opinion. I just refuse to believe it. I refuse because there's, the community, people keep thinking like, oh, yeah, if there's not 1,000 people playing it, the game is dead. And I'm like, dude, if I can host a 10-man bracket, that game ain't dead.
I think that's a very strong presentation for all that because MK9, I think we can get a version. I don't know how long ago it was. I think we can get a version on the PlayStation Play. It's like an extra subscription service for like $5. But again, that's on top of a subscription service. I haven't tried to do that because I'm just like, man, it was a different game back then. I don't know if they're still supporting online, but then we can get a version of it on Steam. And so they're supporting it. Like you can play online.
I've heard that you can play online. People have been able to like organize matches, but I don't know how ranked is because people say that the community is so small that like they don't know if you can do ranked because it just takes so long to find a match. Most people just give up before they find one. But I've heard that you can set up lobbies with your friends if you and your friends have the game. So you can kind of play it, and then if you're playing it on PS Now, though, that means it's being streamed, so it's not being played off of the hard drive of your console. It's being streamed, so it's kind of beholden to your net connection. So, like, yeah, it's kind of hard to get matches, but you can get matches. I found that the community for MK9, unfortunately, it's a pirate community. People they get pirated versions of the Steam version, and then they play it online through Parsec. But like, as much as I'm not really cool with piracy, like I can't blame them because like I'm pretty sure a lot of those people would buy the game if they could. Like Tom Brady kind of gets away with like playing the game because he owns the game on Steam and he just plays a modded version through his Parsec. So he's not supporting piracy, but like I feel bad for the guys that can't get the game now and the only way they can get it is through piracy. And now they can't like make YouTube videos and they can't really like stream because they're playing with a pirated game. They'll get banned. And so like it sucks. It sucks cuz that's what's hurting the MK9 community. Is that it's hard to... I feel like a game nowadays in this new economy of gaming, that a game is only as strong as its content creator community. That's where the lifespan's going to be.
But on top of that, formerly when you were saying this is a older console game, another thing I'd like to dip into on that subject is they released a original trilogy of games back on the Xbox Live Marketplace at the end of Xbox's cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on top of MK9, which the point I was going there was MK9, part of it being dead is obviously being on a last console and no re-release, which I'm sure like you were going into, a lot of people would be thankful for a re-release or like a remaster, something like that. They could officially get us back all into it, because no doubt with that cycle, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on the cycle not being a real cycle with the former game's dead, because everybody would be on MK9. But also going back on former games, back to that original trilogy that I mentioned that they released at the end of Xbox 360 cycle, I feel like that would get more life if it were released alongside the newer generation, like MKX. I feel like a lot of people would still be playing that.
Well, first of all, before I go forward, I got to give a shout out to Cassie Prime, who donated to the Matcherino for our beef set matches later today. So thank you, kind sir.
Sure.
You will be thanked for all times on this podcast. Every day you can come back to this moment at 47 minutes and remember that the Beast of Legend gave you a shout out on his podcast. But back to what you were saying about MK, the old MK games. You can get them. You can't get them on console, but you could get them on Steam, and it's not a pirated version, but it is a game for Windows Live games for Windows Live version on the PC, and so you have to do some finagling to get it to work. But like I have it on Steam, and like I see that you can still buy it because I can gift it to people, so I know I can still buy it. Maybe because I already have it, but maybe I haven't tried to buy it on Steam. But I do know that you do gotta do some jimmying. You gotta do some jimmying to get back into or to get the game working outside of the games for Windows Live, because that doesn't work anymore, obviously. So there is a community for it, and a lot of people play the old ones on Parsec. So the community's there. It's been there for a while. I don't think you know this or not, dude, but like Russia is like deep on the fucking UMK3 tournament scene.
No way.
Like, dude,
Really?
Russia has had Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 tournaments since like fucking 1995 or whenever the game came out. They never stopped. Like, if you go to like Russian YouTubes, you can look it up and you'll find people doing sweaty ass Ultimate MK3 tournaments like last week. You're like, what the fuck? And like, and you'll look at you'll look at their channels, and they've got like decades of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 tournaments. And if you're into MK Trilogy, look at fucking Brazil, right? So you look at Brazil,
love that game.
And like they be running, dude, the Brazil community runs tournaments for the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 versions because both versions are so different. So there's like two different communities with like 30 years worth of tournament competitive play, right? Like YouTube videos, like you have like fucking old fucking hand cam tournaments from like 2001 of Mortal Kombat Trilogy on fucking Nintendo 64. It's fucking crazy, man. Like people, like everybody's like, oh, this game is dead and these games are gonna die. And I'm like, dude, nah, bro. Nah, there's dudes in Brazil still getting sweaty on Nintendo 64. That's why Nintendo 64s are fucking expensive, because dudes in Brazil be buying them up to play Mortal Kombat Trilogy.
That's
That's
crazy.
that's absolutely insane. I loved Trilogy. Oh my gosh, that is when you think about that, that is 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, next year, Mortal Kombat 1 released in 1992 of October, I think. Mortal Monday.
Dude, just
And Russia's got that 30 years strong next year.
think about the killers that they've got in those communities, right? Think about, like, there's some dude that's been the best at Mortal Kombat Trilogy for 30 years in Brazil. Like, he's like their guy, right? Imagine how fucking good at that game. We've never even seen someone have 30 years of experience on
No.
one single game, right? You could talk about
No.
like Daigo with the Street Fighter games, or Justin Wong with the Marvel games, or Sonic with NetherRealm games. But like, honestly, they're like different games. Like, Sonic didn't just play Injustice 1. They stopped playing Injustice 1 and went to the other games. So they didn't play Injustice 1 for, this decade straight. Whereas there's some dude in Russia that has played Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate for 30 fucking years. And he's been the fucking godlike killer at that game for 30 years. So imagine that shit.
And he never
you
got
said
burned up from
UMK.
that. It's crazy.
And so when people are talking about this game dying, I'm like, nah, dude, nah. This game isn't going to die. Like, if anything, this game is only going to grow in notoriety. Think a couple years from now, right? As the tech gets explored and people refine their abilities at this game. We live in a society. We live in a world right now where, like, media doesn't disappear, right? You used to think of, like, the 70s and 80s, right? When the 70s ended and the 80s started, people stopped listening to that kind of music. They stopped watching those TV shows. It's like the world moved on, right? But, like, nowadays, like, shit that was cool in 2001 is, like people still fucking rock Nelly, you know? Like, fashion has not really changed much outside of, like, past 1999, really. Like, fashion has not changed that much. So, like,
Not really. No.
when you think about it, like, this game, it's like I touched on the point earlier. I said that a game's community, or a game, is about as dead as its content creator community, right? Because as long as people are making content about a game, it's going to still be out in the zeitgeist of the world. So people will still be exposed to it. People will still be exploring and evolving it, and people will still be getting new interest in it. So there will always be new people that are interested in that old game. I see it all the time, dude. I see, I see people that are getting into MKX and they're like 8 years old, and they go on Reddit and they're like, I'm 8 years old and I just bought MKX with my birthday money because it was $4 and I never played a fighting game. And it's like, dude, there are those being born every day. And we don't have, like, the 70s to 80s and 80s to 90s where, like, okay, now everything went from records to CDs. So, like, yeah, if you didn't re-release your music on a CD, it may as well not even fucking exist anymore, right? And media's not even controlled by, like, oh, yeah, the only fucking artists you hear about is whoever's on MTV or ABC or the Disney Channel. It's like, dude, everybody gets exposed to everything, and that means that underground niche things can get better exposure, but also old things. There are people, like I said, today just discovering MKX, and they would have never had any exposure to that game beforehand because it's old, they're not printing new discs really, like, it's not the new hotness. But it's like, no, because that shit is saved on YouTube forever. So an 8-year-old kid just fucking around on YouTube, never heard of Mortal Kombat, sees fucking a Mortal Kombat X streamer or a Mortal Kombat X tutorial, and is just like, oh, well, YouTube suggested this because I watch video game stuff, so what's going on? Oh, this game looks cool. Oh, and it's $3 because it's fucking 10 years old? I'm going to fucking buy that. And you know what?
Oh.
That kid may fucking be, that kid may be rich and donate fucking hundreds of dollars to streamers. I've had people, you see my donate shit on the top of the screen. People have given me hundreds of dollars because they found Mortal Kombat 11 and nobody else fucking played it or streamed it. So the game's not going to die. It's not going to die. As long as there are people creating content, it will stay in the cultural conscience.
On that note, it just kind of, on the outer picture of things, it's there, but not really thinking about it. It's just like Mortal Kombat we're in like a culture, like content culture. if that may be an appropriate way to put it, where, like the 90s, it's like we're being dragged through, and we're like, it's not stale. Things are changing, but things are lasting longer. It was kind of like you were saying with, earlier years, people just stopped and they moved on to the next thing. And when we're not moving on to the next thing, we have all these things to reflect. Mortal Kombat 11, 20 years later, yeah, people are going back. That's honestly crazy to think about.
Think
And we're
about it.
even going back farther than that, dipping into like older video games, like into the 80s a little bit.
Well, think about things. You've got to think about things in like seasons and cycles too. So, 20 years from now, you're going to have people just discovering Mortal Kombat 11, right? New kids being born just discovering Mortal Kombat 11 20 years from now. But what about the people that stopped playing and then like 20 years later now they're dads and they're like, "Oh, Mortal Kombat 11 is my nostalgia." Like somebody like J-Ro's age. 20 years from now, you're going to be like, "Holy shit, that game was my childhood." So like the community will have this peak and valley of people coming in and coming out and coming in and coming out, right? And it's just going to create that wavelength to where whenever you want to get in, there's always going to be someone also still in. And whenever you want to get out, you can get out and know that when you want to come back, it's going to be there. And then
Yeah.
my AI battle died.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Nothing at all.
I was gonna say, yeah, no, it's just crazy how long things are lasting, and uh, how many people. It's kind of like, like you're saying, people turn into dads, and then they have kids. They're like, oh, I used to do this, and it'll keep going back. People will have these things and memories to archive, to go back and play these older games, and I feel like, I mean, it might be a little extreme to think in 100 years that from Mortal Kombat 1's date, we will still have a community, or Mortal Kombat 11 at that people will be able to look back at those games, appreciate those games because they're lasting so long. It's nostalgia and things get passed on. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think like communities like this will be here
I think the best
in a long time, for a
think
long
so.
time?
I think it is.
I think the best hedge for my future is the fact that I did beginner's guides for MK11. That will like continue to provide residual income for me and my family for the rest of my life. Like it may be pennies, but I'll always get money off of those videos because there will always be somebody. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are having a hard time, and I think a lot of people are shooting themselves in the foot because as people abandon the game, to go to the new game, they're going to lose out on those new people coming in. Like people aren't thinking it's I feel like I've cracked the fucking matrix, okay? Because people aren't thinking about post scarcity as far as digital media and like forever. Like literally YouTube, as long as YouTube exists, I can get, and I have hardly any ad revenue on those beginner guides, right? I think it just has like pre-video ads, like it'll play an ad before the video, but I don't have any ads in the videos, which I should probably do that. But as long as YouTube exists, and as long as it plays an ad in front of that video, which should be forever, then like my great grandkids, thousands of years in the future, could be making pennies on ad revenue off of my Mortal Kombat 11 videos that I made 1,000 years ago. Like, that's the mind-melting shit that I'm talking about. I'm like, yo, dude, like, your best bet. Look, I got a dono right there.
Thank you for the tech and love that is present on your MK streams.
See?
But
how's that for mind-blowing? I was like, how is that for mind-blowing? Like, yo, dude, probably the best thing I did was do MK11 and do as much content and the kind of content that I did because I basically future-proofed myself from poverty. I mean, I'm poor right now, though.
But like you were saying, it's just going to continue to grow.
Forever.
That'd be crazy. I mean... undoubtedly, like generations of one's family who played Mortal Kombat, wouldn't it be crazy if people forgot about Mortal Kombat, right? Eventually, I mean, because eventually it will go out. People will stop making them. At what point, we don't know. Because I mean, gosh, it's even amazing that
I
it's
don't think so.
almost 30 years later.
What was
You know,
Mortal Kombat like? Let's go back 5,000 years. What was Mortal Kombat? The fucking
it was
Egypt gods.
nothing.
No, it's the Egypt gods, the Greek gods, the Roman gods. That was their Mortal Kombat. They're fucking extra powerful characters fighting good versus evil. The tale of as old as time, right? Dude,
Yeah.
you still know who fucking Osiris is? You still know about Anubis? 5,000 years from now, we will be talking about Kung Lao, or they will be talking about Kung Lao the way we talk about Anubis. Maybe there will be a fucking Disney reboot, like, of Thor, right? Because Thor was basically Thor 5,000 years ago. And now, in 5,000 years from now, there's going to be a fucking Avengers team up where Disney reboots Liu Kang and fucking they all get together and there's a Mortal Kombat cinematic universe.
I mean,
Avengers and what?
that would be cool. Honestly, in some sort of media, that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that goes along with saying, I mean, be included that, I forget that some of these video games, they count as like the stories that they used to put in books and stuff, these mythologies that we built. I really do forget that these movies, all this media in Mortal Kombat, it's just going to be another story. That's a crazy thought.
Yeah. Like, dude, Batman and Superman are Zeus and fucking Poseidon, you know?
Easily.
And so, like, yeah, dude, it's not going anywhere. If anything, now is the time. When's the best time to get into Mortal Kombat 11? Yesterday, right? The best time was to get in on day one. That was literally the best time was to buy the game day one. But any time after that is the best time because there's always going to be, I mean, I know I'm waving the flag. I'm going to be here even if I cut it down to like one video a week. You know, like the it's on its last legs and I'm the last one left. But as long as I'm here making content, there's still going to be something of a community. And if other people get inspired further, like my videos inspired someone else to make videos, it's just going to go on and on forever. Like, and people aren't looking at that. Like, this is what's blowing my mind is people are thinking like way, way, way too short term. They're not thinking long term. Like, yo, dude, this could be big. This is like gonna change fucking society like the way the Industrial Revolution changed society. You know, the internet and like the internet economy and the social media aspect of it. Like it's already changed society in ways we wouldn't know, but people aren't thinking about, they don't think about infinity. That's what I'm getting at, is that things actually, like there actually are things that are forever. As long as there's electricity being made and as long as there are servers hosting YouTube, my videos will exist forever. Like I have literally achieved immortality. I'm about as immortal as Shakespeare. And that's kind of crazy to think about it because I just tell fart jokes. Damn, y'all got quiet. Y'all got like super. I'm sorry, man. I smoke too much goddamn weed, don't I? It's too much goddamn weed.
No.
Yeah, that was weird. I'm not gonna lie.
No, yeah, I was taking a sip of my coffee. I was gonna say, yeah, no, your videos are going to do more. They're going to be there, like you said, they're going to be there forever as long as it's running it.
But even you
people are going
guys,
to-
J-Ro's even more ahead of the curve than me because he's younger. He's going to be doing this for longer than I will.
Factually. And these will, I mean, it's going to do a lot for so many people. Like, it's going to do more than just support your future family. It's literally going to help people, anybody out. I mean,
I don't know if I'd say
surely-
support. Like, I mean, I'm getting like pennies for these videos right now, man. I mean, I know inflation over thousands of years could be compounded, but I don't know that my family will be able to live off of my videos. I'm having a hard time living off of my videos. But they'll never be broke. They'll never be broke.
Yeah,
They'll
that's for
always
sure.
get pennies.
But yeah, no, yeah, it's just going to do a lot. The videos are just going to support the future of fighting game, players and
No, but-
stuff. And even if it is Mortal Kombat, like, 32 or whatever, people are probably going to do the research and go back to the fundamentals. And like you said, with people being inspired by our YouTube videos, they're just going to keep the word going on.
But that's like I mean, yeah, it's cool to think about it from my perspective, but I'm saying people need to start making, like, content creators, they need to start making content with forever in mind. Like, I see a bunch of shit, not necessarily like MK streamers or MK YouTubers, but like just in general. I see a lot of people doing a lot of shit, and I'm like, dude, this shit's forever. Like, not even in the sense of like being canceled, but like 10,000 years from now, like whatever discovers our society, like this is what you're going to be known for. Like this is what they will like, yeah, make a OnlyFans. That's a good idea. In 10,000 years, when you're long dead, you're going to be known to the future ones as an OnlyFans person. I'm like, yo, y'all need to start respecting infinity.
I see what you're saying there. That's I mean, that's a good point of view to have as far as content creators. But it did what you were saying about people discovering our stuff in the future. Talking about history and stories and all that. What if a future civilization ended up discovering the story of Mortal Kombat? Somebody had it written down somewhere, and they actually thought that's what we did as a species.
That'd be dope. Or, you know what would be even funnier is if they thought that we actually believed that shit, right? Because, like, right now we believe that the Egyptians, like, believed in Osiris and shit, but maybe that was just their comic books. Maybe they didn't really believe that shit, and that was just their entertainment. But we don't know because they're all dead, and we can't ask them, right? So what if, like, 10,000 years from now, like, future people, they think that we believe that there was a tournament every 100 years and that Raiden controls the weather and... That'd be pretty gangster.
Well, I think they're going to find, and what would be crazier is they're going to find a consistency with that. Because if they have, they find Mortal Kombat, they do, in theory, end up thinking that's what we believe, blah, blah, blah. Then they're going to find Japanese history, and then they're going to see Raijin and Fujin and, like, mythologies and stuff. So then they're going to go, oh, this might be a little bit more real than we thought because we're finding more of that stuff around the world.
Kind of like those people that like believe in the fucking the fucking religious pantheons and shit, and they're like, oh man, it's the eye of the temple or eye of Set is on the dollar bill. Those kind of weirdos.
Yeah, something very similar.
Damn, in the future I'm gonna be a fucking Mortal Kombat conspiracy theorist. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, don't watch that Honey Badgers content. He believes in the doctrine of the Lin Kuei.
What would they think about the video game, though? Like, they find the story first, they find all these consistencies. The next step is finding a video game, and then, like, seeing you as that conspiracist. And then they're all like, what is he using? Is he using, like, a virtual thing?
I think we've gone off the deep end on that. But I do think that, like, people should just jump onto MK11, and people that are abandoning it, I think that they need to second guess that. They need to second guess that because there's going to be more and more people every day that discover this game forever. And it's just mind-boggling to think about that. Like, dude, 50 years from now, someone's going to discover my YouTube channel. And then, like they're going to buy MK11 and they're going to discover my videos. Like, 50 years from now. That's just fucking, that just blows my mind. I don't know why nobody else is, like, mind-fucked by that.
They're gonna buy that game based on how well you're explaining it. Like, if they go back to your earlier videos, they're gonna go, "Oh, I think I could be good at this game."
But I'm just saying, in like any MK11 content creator, it's just kind of crazy to think about that, man. Like, dude, like 50 years from now, someone's gonna discover J-Ro's fucking YouTube channel with like 4 videos, and they're gonna be like, "Wow, this guy, he made 4 videos and then quit."
4 videos. I have like.
I have 5 videos.
I have a lot of videos on that.
Do you stream, J-Ro?
Yeah, I stream on Twitch.
I fucking give him fucking raids every other day. He doesn't even have a camera, and everybody thinks that he's a grown-ass man. And then now... Dude, I can't wait for the day when J-Ro goes to an offline, and we finally learn the truth. Right? Because a lot of people are going to have to eat a lot of crow. Because if he's a grown-ass man... and it gets exposed, like, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot because here I am fucking giving him hype. Like, hey, man, look at this kid. He's good. And then he's not even a kid. I'm going to be like, fuck me. Shit. Take my clout. Just get rid of it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But if he ends up actually being a kid, then it's like, people are going to have to hold that. What I think is going to be funny is like, because J-Ro is being immortalized right now as a kid, right? 10 years from now, someone goes to a tournament and they meet J-Ro, and it's 10 years later, so he's a grown-ass man. He's like in his 20s, and they'll be like, what the fuck? You're not J-Ro. You're supposed to be a kid, man. You're a fraud. And it's like, motherfucker, I was a kid 10 years ago. It's like how people still think of Anakin Skywalker as this little chubby kid. And it's like, no, dude, he's like an old-ass dad now. He is not a kid. But people see him, and they're like, dude, no way. That's not him. No way. He's a kid. He's Anakin. It's like, no, dude, he was Anakin 30 years ago.
Partly because I don't think that actor actually got any more movies after that, so no one could really see him grow up like others.
Right? But I mean, like, J-Ro doesn't have a camera, so that's what I'm saying. It's like no one would know. No one would know, and then they meet him in person, right? Having only seen his streams and his not having a camera, right? And then they'll be like, what the fuck? And it's like, yo, man, I recorded that shit on YouTube 30 years ago, bro. That shit would be so fucking funny. I want somebody to call him a fraud to his face. I want to be there on the day when somebody exposes you as a grown-ass man and, like, talks so much shit, dude. I hope it's Great One, too. I hope he's the one that exposes you as an adult.
Grade 8 is just, like, desperate to, like, reveal that I'm 12. I mean, he say he was going to give you his, like, son's birth certificate. That shit was just weird.
I mean, because he don't want, you got to think about it from his perspective. He don't want his kid to get beat up by a grown-ass man. But you know what I'm saying? But you could be a grown-ass man. You could be. I can't wait until somebody exposes you as a grown-ass man.
I mean, I'm 12, but, I've been mistaken for being 15. Yeah.
I was about to say, I don't believe he's 12.
It's just the morning.
I don't either. Your voice, you got a little too much bass. You got a little too much puberty in that throat, bro. Like, you sound a little too grown. He sounds grown. Watch when he gets exposed. I got to stop saying that he's 12. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to be like fucking 19-year-old MK Prodigy. 19-year-old, undefeatable, fucking, just old enough to, like, be an adult, but not old enough to, like, fucking drink or anything fun, right?
I don't know if there's a pool for, or if anybody will start a pool for this for right before anyone actually gets to report back and see J-Ro. But I'm putting $5. He's at least 17.
I'm not 17.
Dude, I'm just saying, like, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to run with the narrative that he might be a little kid, just because if he ends up really being a little kid, like, yo, I discovered him. I'm going to ride that train. I already told you, J-Ro, I'm going to exploit this shit. I'm going to get money off of you. I'm going to be like, yeah, I taught him everything he knows. I discovered this little boy. He's the next Sonic Fox. Dude, because if there's a 12-year-old that's that good, imagine Sonic Fox started when he was like 12 years old or some shit, right? So you just imagine. So when J-Ro becomes the next Sonic Fox and wears, cat ears to all the tournaments and makes all the money and gets all the clout, I'm going to be like, yeah, I discovered that fucking cat-eared fucking idiot. I discovered him. I made him who he is.
And J-Ro, I think the beautiful thing about it, if you're actually 12, is, I mean, granted, you sound young. You have so much time to learn. Like, you're this good, like, right now. You have so much time to improve. Like, I honestly wish, I mean, I played Mortal Kombat when I was 12, but I didn't get, like, competitive with it. But then again, I grew up with, like, the 3D era where online was only on Deception, and then my mom says, no, you can't do that stuff.
But think about it, dude. Like, games don't last forever like they do now, right? Like, think about the 12-year-olds if they would have stuck with Deception for that long until now, right? There's going to be 12-year-olds that are starting MK11 today, and in 10 years are going to be fucking gods of MK11 because the game will not go away. Like, until the servers shut down, until the internet dies, the game won't go away. So we're going to have games now where someone has been grinding for decades. Like, this is the new normal. This is why I say, like, dude, if you want to get into any game, you need to get into it on day one and, like, commit hard. Because, like, in the future, everybody, the younger you start, the better you're going to be, right? So I started MK11 when I was fucking old. But, like, somebody who starts MK11 when they're 8 years old, right? In those same 10 years, man, they're going to be way more better than I am in those 10 years, those same 10 years. And people aren't thinking about that, man. They're not. The competition is going to change.
I definitely think so.
Yeah,
Like-
for sure. Yeah.
Just
That's all I gotta say.
I feel like I'm the only person that's like excited for the future of MK11, and it's because my excitement isn't really driven monetarily. Like a lot of people are like more interested in like, yo, like what's the esport that, or what's the game that I can make the most money off of? Like what's the fighting game that I can like make a living off of? And I'm not really interested in that sort of thing. I'm more interested in like, yo, dude, there's like shit that we're going to see that we've never had the opportunity to see. What's going to happen when a kid actually trains their whole life at the same game? We've never seen that. We've seen that with like football, right? And that's how we have fucking people like Kobe Bryant and fucking Joe Montana. Like we've had people that Kobe trained his whole life since he was a kid to play basketball. And we saw like, holy shit, like you can get really fucking godlike. We're going to start seeing that with fucking video games right now. Not just like child prodigies, like, oh, wow, this kid's really good for an 8-year-old. But we're going to be seeing like, holy shit, that kid was good for an 8-year-old and now they're 37. And like, how good are they going to be? And that's the shit that excites me. That's the shit that makes me hype for the future, because I'm like, yo, dude, what kind of crazy MK fucking savants are we going to see with this fucking game? Is there more to it? Like, have we reached the pinnacle of what this game can offer, or is there more? And like, what's the level of play? Like, what are high-level players of MK11? What's this game gonna look like in 10 years? Are we gonna be having the same meta? Are we gonna be having the same fucking top tiers? Are people gonna move the same? Are they gonna have the same strategies? Shit's gonna get wild, man. It's going to get wild, and since they're not patching it anymore, I think it's only going to get more wilder, because people are going to have to experiment and fine-tune even deeper and deeper into the game engine to find those little minute advantages that could help them in competition. People start experimenting really, really deep after support ends.
Yeah, because there's nothing added to it. Oh yeah.
I was going to say, you could say... in theory, now based on my experience, I'm not a Street Fighter or a Tekken player. At least I haven't played those games in a while. But every game that I've, for example, I played Tekken 3, and there was I think it was Tekken 6 or whatever. I went back and gave that a try. And when I picked up Tekken 6, I was like, wait a minute. I'm playing this game like I'm playing Tekken 3, and all these moves are still the same, right? Now, I know there might be a little bit of clause to this, but in theory, there could have been somebody that have played Tekken 1. And if those game consistencies, character consistencies carried through all the way up to Tekken now, including Tekken versus Street Fighter. Now, granted, that might have a different mechanic system because of Street Fighter. I don't know. Somebody could have been playing since Tekken 1, like say Jin, and they could have been learning Jin from that one game to the latest game and still know the ins and outs, like through thousands of games of experience.
Well, yeah, that's something unique to the Tekken community, but I don't think that that's really going to be much of a factor anymore in this kind of like infinite fucking game life like world we live in now. Like, it doesn't matter if your skills from MK11 transfer over to MK12, because your skills in MK11 will be forever relevant to MK11. And because the game will never die now, unless Steam dies, like, your skills in MK11 will always have value in MK11. So NetherRealm is actually more free than they've ever been, because they can make MK12 into whatever the fuck they want, and people will bitch about legacy skill, and it's like, yeah, but dude, if you want legacy skill, play the legacy game. It's not like MK9 where you literally can't really play the game, not legally, right? MK11 is there. So, like, if you want to show off your MK11 legacy skill, like, you could just play MK11. So NetherRealm doesn't have to do what Bandai did, what Bandai Namco did, in that making all the Tekkens kind of similar, so that way if you started with Tekken 3, like, it's still, you can figure out what the fuck Heihachi's all about in Tekken 7. Like, NetherRealm doesn't have to do that anymore. They never did anyways, but like, they don't have to do that, because you could just play the legacy games and those communities didn't die. And if anything, if you were a mediocre player in the game's heyday, you could become a legend in the future when all the other legends move on to other games and you keep refining your game, then when they come back, you know, it's like the people that are good at MKX right now, and they're like, oh, could they have beat Sonic Fox in their prime? Well, we'll never know, but you know what? Sonic Fox maybe can't beat them now, and they're in their prime now. So who owns the roost now, you know?
Yeah. And I also noticed that going from now, I don't know how many people from Midway carried over to NRS, um, but they don't have a track record of really keeping the games like similar like that either. Because I could totally see what you're saying with MK11, somebody putting actually 30 years into that game itself. Um, eh, uh, but Mortal Kombat, they don't have games that have ever been really similar besides off the top of my head, and maybe Injustice isn't a Mortal Kombat game, but both the Injustices are essentially the same game with the same characters. It's like with Deadly Alliance and Deception as well. Like they never really, well, I guess in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and you could say 3 without the combos, but they've never really stuck to one style of gameplay. Like even MKX was Rushdown, where you had MK11 be more of a footsie game.
Yeah.
At least that's how I feel.
And that's why I think like they need to do what they can to get a remaster of MK9, and I think the three communities of 9, 10, and 11 can coexist side by side. Like a lot of people, a lot of MK11 tryhards are like, yo, they don't want MK9 to come back because they're scared that people will ditch MK11 to go back to MK9. If that's the case, then like MK11 just sucks and doesn't deserve to like live. Like if you're gonna lose viewers and you're gonna lose players and you're gonna lose streamers and lose all of that to MK9, then your games community either wasn't strong or the game wasn't strong. Like the game didn't have the juice to keep people hooked and playing for that long. So I take the opposite stance. I feel like there's enough juice in MK11 to keep it interesting. I feel like the community is strong enough to sustain itself, and I feel like there's enough content creators, myself included, to keep interest and media attention on the game forever. So if MK9 has all of those things as well, it won't affect MK11 in any way. So unlike everybody else that's hating, like I want MK9. I want 9, 10, and 11 to have their own 3 separate communities going side by side, all MK under the MK umbrella, but like I feel like the games are different enough. You know, MK9 was a far more zony kind of game. MKX is like unga bunga, crazy, rushdown, and then MK11 is like kind of like a nice in between. You know, it's kind of a nice middle range. And so I think that all 3 games serve 3 different play styles, you know, depending, like if you think of you as a fighting game player on a spectrum of fighting games, right? You're either zoning or rush down with neutral in the middle, and you fall somewhere in that spectrum. And having 3 games being the extreme versions of those points on the spectrum, people are going to gravitate. There may be somebody that likes, you know, they're a little bit of a zoner, but they don't like it on the extreme of MK9, but they want more than MK11, so they bounce between those games, you know. And then there will be people that are just all in on the Unga, and they only play MKX. And all of our communities, like, we don't have to be enemies. We could all, like, support each other, but we don't, which is stupid. It's only going to hold us back.
For sure. And I honestly think that's the beauty. And whether it be NetherRealm trying to try something new with each of the recent trilogy that we've gotten, or they just decided it was an improvement upon the other, I don't know. I'm actually very thankful on that point of people like that culture not existing where the last game's dead, we move on to the other one. Because they do have communities, they're different games, you can play them, and they're Mortal Kombat. And when I mean different games, I don't mean like obviously too differential, just a different type of play style, like you're saying, the in between with Mortal Kombat 11, the Rushdown X, Sony with 9. I think that's a huge plus, and I think it's a huge plus. And whether it be accidental or not, it's definitely exciting to have 3 communities and 3 different games to get experience in.
Well, I just look at like how other communities operate and take inspiration and kind of you know, take just the idea. Like, you look, Street Fighter and Marvel versus Capcom, like, those are two communities that have coexisted since those two games have come out. And when a new Street Fighter comes out, the Marvel versus Capcom players they're not concerned because they don't play Street Fighter. They like the fucking craziness of Marvel. So they're going to continue to play Marvel. And when there was no Marvel 3, people continued to play Marvel 2. And like when Marvel 3 came out, people still played Marvel 2. And then now that Infinite comes out, people play Dragon Ball. But like the Marvel 2 community is still there within the greater Marvel community of people that play fucking team-based air dashers, right? And they exist side by side with Street Fighter, and there's like very little overlap. And those communities are both games supported and created by Capcom. So I'm like, why does NetherRealm games, why does our community have to be different? Like, why can't MKX and 11 and 9 and Injustice, like, why can't all these games just coexist? Because people still play Capcom versus SNK2. To this day, man, there's people fucking grinding that shit. Why does the NetherRealm community have to sit there and be like, yeah, we're moving on to the next game? Because it's not that case in like other communities.
So I guess let me ask, when you mean our communities are divided, now I know what you're saying with like the Marvel vs. Capcom and Street Fighter. When you mean our communities are divided, do you mean they're divided on you should move on to the next game or stay at the last game, or what do you mean by community?
Just all of that. Like the community, like,
Okay.
dude, when they announced support for MK11 was over with, everybody's stream title changed to like, we're officially Necros. Necro MK11. MK11 is dead. Game's only dead if you stop playing it. Like, for you, like, it may be dead to me if I stop playing it, but that doesn't mean it's dead to you, and you can keep playing it. So I don't understand. Like, we kind of perpetuate that mindset, and it's just simply not true, and it hasn't really ever been true. Does it, like, people are basing whether or not a game is dead based on whether or not there's like 5,000 people playing it. But like, at what point was 5,000 people playing MK11 ever a factor for you? Like, yeah, maybe that's a factor for, like, Ninja Killer, because then he doesn't make enough money when he beats those 5,000 people. But Ninja Killer could just move on to the next game. That's an issue that affects very small people. Like, if you like the game and you just keep playing it, then the game is not dead. I think what it is that a lot of people, it's kind of jealousy within the community. People don't like that, like, they didn't like MK11, and they don't like that other people do. So it's like, I don't like this game, and I'm mad that you do. So, like, I'm going to shit on your game and say that it's dead. But if this game was shit, then, like, nobody would be streaming it. Like, who the fuck streams fucking, what's that fucking game that Epic put out? Fucking Paladins or some shit, right? Or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like, who fucking plays that shit, right? Nobody plays that shit. That shit is fucking, well, no, Paladins I think people still play. But there was, or Sky something. There was something that Epic made that was kind of like Unreal fucking tournament or whatever. Nobody fucking plays it. You can't even play the game anymore. The servers are down, right? That shit's dead. Okay? That shit. But like, people like looking at MK11 and they see all of us having fun and they're like mad. And if this game was dead, we wouldn't be here having fun. But we still have fun. So they're just mad they can't join us.
And I think the irony of that is, I bet you the same people said MKX was dead. And then when they hear MK11 is dead, they're like, I'm going back to MKX, not realizing that he has other people joining him, which revives. I mean, not that MKX was dead, but it revives what his definition of dead is.
Yeah.
The very irony.
I think people need to, as we wrap this up, I think people need to play what they like and not worry about what other people are playing and what other people like, because I think you're going to have a lot less headaches.
I think so. Yeah, we're all having fun in here, and that's what I enjoy. I enjoy MK11. I enjoy Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The community is just being very salty, and I think it's a little toxicity. But as long as we got everybody here playing Mortal Kombat 11, we're keeping it alive. You know, we'll keep it going. You know, we'll keep the wheels turning.
Right? And then, so as we wrap this up, let's shout out your social medias. Where can people catch you, Mr. Shrek?
So you can catch me. I mean, I stream here and there on Twitch if you want to follow it. It's the one and only Shrek, all lowercase.
You got a Twitter as well, YouTube.
No, sir. I actually
No,
don't
sir.
do Twitter that much.
No, okay. Well, you can follow J-Ro, who had to step aside, at Justin122408. That's his Twitch account. I'm pretty sure he's got a link to his YouTube on there somewhere, and I think he tweets as well. I don't know what his Twitter is, and he bailed before he could shout himself out, so I'll just shout out his Twitch. And, of course, if you're watching this or listening to this somewhere else, then chances are you know where to find me. But if not, you can catch me live on twitch.tv/SoCalHoneyBadger, and you can also follow me on YouTube and Twitter and all of that shit, like the shit, fucking shit, and the subscribe and donate, all that. All that. So with that being said, we'll catch you guys later. This has been the first episode of the Trash Cast. I had a lot of fun. What about you, Toad?
A lot of fun, Badger. Thank you so much for having me on here.
No problem, Chief. And we'll see you guys next week for the next episode. Thank you very much.